6 o'clock. So I will call this regularly scheduled Shawnee Mission School District Board of Education meeting to order. The first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. I'll seek a motion to adopt the agenda.
So move, Goodburn.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Is there a second?
Second, Hembry.
Thank you, Ms. Hembry. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The next item is 1.4, approval of the minutes from the special meeting on September 27th, 2021.
So move, Borkman.
Thank you, Ms. Borkman. Is there a second?
Guy.
Thank you, Reverend Guy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Next is item 1.5, approval of the minutes from the special public comment meeting on September 27th. Is there a motion?
So move, Sinclair.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. Is there a second?
Second, Hembry.
Thank you, Ms. Hembry. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
1.6, approval of the minutes from the regular board meeting on September 27th.
So move, Goodburn.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Is there a second?
Second, Borgman.
Thank you, Ms. Borgman. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Item 1.7, approval of the minutes from the special meeting on October 11th.
So moved, Guy.
Thank you, Reverend Guy. Is there a second?
Second, Hembry.
I think that was Dr. Sinclair. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Item 1.8, approval of the minutes from the special public comment meeting on October 11th. I'll seek a motion.
So move, Borkman.
Thank you, Ms. Borgman. Is there a second?
Second, Sinclair.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And then item 1.9, approval of minutes from the regular meeting on October 11th. Is there a motion?
So move, Goodburn.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Is there a second?
Second, Guy.
Thank you, Reverend Guy. All those in favor, please say aye. And now we move to item 2.1, the Superintendent Report, and we'll turn it over to you, Dr. Hubbard.
Thank you, President Owsley. So I'm going to start with Scholarship Shawnee Mission. This month, more than 1,900 seniors received the news that they had received offers through Scholarship Shawnee Mission. The Shawnee Mission Education Foundation traveled to all 5 high schools and let students know how much colleges and universities want them to attend their schools by extending scholarship offers. The grand total this year is incredible. Our seniors received $2.1 billion in scholarship offers. This is the 3rd year of the program, which begins with students and families sharing academic data with participating colleges and universities. Then colleges and universities make scholarship offers to students whom they want to recruit. This year, 45 colleges and universities offered over 45,000 scholarships to Shawnee Mission seniors. We give a big thanks to the foundation for bringing these opportunities to our students through the Scholarship Shawnee Mission program. We're thrilled to share that Amy Soxy, a 4th grade teacher at Corinth Elementary School, and Ray Royal, a 7th grade math teacher at Indian Hills Middle School, have been named the Shawnee Mission School District nominees for Kansas Teacher of the Year. They're now nominees for the Kansas State Department's Education's 2023 Kansas Teacher of the Year program and are in the running to be named State Teacher of the Year. Every district is able to nominate 1 exemplary elementary and 1 exemplary secondary teacher of the year for this honor. Congratulations to Ray and Amy on this outstanding achievement. We recently enjoyed honoring the Shawnee Mission seniors named semifinalists in the 2022 National Merit Scholarship Program. They took the 2020 preliminary SAT, National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, PSAT, which was the initial screen. These semifinalists represent less than 1% of all U.S. high school seniors. It was so great to see these national champions of academics joined by their family members and principals to celebrate. We are so proud of them and grateful to everyone who helped them achieve this accomplishment. We continue our work to provide helpful information to families as students use digital resources. A session focused on students, screen time, and health will be held at 7 p.m. on November 3rd at Shawnee Mission South. Chris Jensen, a public health advisor with a background in education and medicine, will discuss screen time and supporting students' social and emotional health in light of pandemic challenges. We will include a link in the recap so educators and families can sign up to learn more. Soon we will be having an exciting opportunity for individuals looking to become teachers in the Shawnee Mission School District. Teacher interview night will be held from 5 to 8 on Thursday, November the 18th at the Center for Academic Achievement. This will give prospective teachers a chance to learn more about the district and the great benefits that we offer. Attendees will also attend an initial screening interview process. We'll include a link for those wanting to reserve a spot. This week, the Broadmoor Bistro will be celebrating 21 years of culinary education. They're holding a culinary homecoming dinner at 6 p.m. on Wednesday at the Center for Academic Achievement. This meal will feature the work of 6 Bistro alumni who will serve a 5-course dinner with current students. We congratulate all who have operated this student-run restaurant on many wonderful years of culinary and hospitality education. We'll also include a link in the recap for those wanting to eat dinner at the Bistro Homecoming. I want to congratulate the Shawnee Mission East girls tennis team. For the 3rd consecutive year, they are state champions. They also are celebrating a 3rd consecutive doubles champions with Bryson Langford and Greta Steck-Schulte. Congratulations to all the athletes and to Coach Andy Gibbs. What a great honor for Shawnee Mission East. 3 years in a row is tough to accomplish for any school. And we're also excited tonight to recognize Shawnee Mission School District All-Star. I invite Dr. Abby Morgan to the podium, principal at Shawnee Elementary, to introduce tonight's honoree.
President Owsley, members of the board, and Superintendent Hubbard, thank you so much for the opportunity to introduce this month's SMSD All-Star, Mrs. Crystal Brower. Mrs. Brower is a kindergarten teacher at Shawnee Elementary, and she truly inspires the staff, students, and families she serves. She is passionate about her work and relentlessly pursues new and innovative ways to help each individual student. I have brought a very special student here who is going to help me introduce Mrs. Brower.
Hello, my name is Katie Jada and I am a 6th grader at Shawnee. I was lucky to get to have Miss Brower as my kindergarten teacher. I am very glad that I got to have Mrs. Brower as my teacher because she's an amazing teacher who always finds fun ways to help students. Thank you for always believing in me, Miss Brower.
And with that, I believe we are ready to see the film.
We are so fortunate to have Crystal at Shawnee, and all of our students and families benefit because she is here with us.
She knows how to teach her kids. She makes learning fun.
She loves her job and cares about the kids. Miss Brower is an all-star because she keeps our team going. So I think Crystal takes the time to get to know and truly see the full potential of all of her students, and then she shows them what their true potential is. So she inspires them to be bigger or better than they even know possible. I think that she's just a wonderful teacher, and if our kindergarten team didn't have her, we would be lost sometimes because she is the one that can pull us out of sadness or can pull us out of, a tough day and tell us to keep going and pulls us back to the big picture. We're doing this for our kids and kind of is just our constant in our team.
She's really nice and I really like her. I like her personality. She teaches things in an easier way so people can understand more.
She was one of the best teachers I ever had. She helped me learn a lot in kindergarten. I loved when she plays games with me and with the rest of the class.
Oh my gosh, look at all this.
Mrs. Brower and another teacher at our school, they actually wrote a grant to get a community garden built at Shawnee. So she partnered with the older classes and they got to first design the gardens, build the gardens. So she just always has ideas of how to make it a little more exciting, a little more real, a little more relevant for students.
There you go, Mrs. Brower. I think it's the best teacher.
Congratulations, Miss Brower. I'm happy for you. Nobody deserves this award more than you.
Congratulations on being recognized as the Shawnee Mission School District's All-Star. We know every day that you are All-Star here at Shawnee.
I'm so glad you won and you really deserved it.
Congratulations, Brower. None of us are surprised that you just won the All-Star Award, but we are very, very proud of you.
so much. Thank you. Thank you to the board and to my admin, my family, for supporting me in everything that I do. And thank you to the families that I've been able to teach. And thank you for trusting me with your littles. You know, I do what I do because I know that our kids can. Shawnee Mission has great families. They have great kids. Shawano's got amazing, amazing students. And I'm honored to work here, and I'm honored to teach these little ones every single day. So thank you.
And that concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Hubbard. Moving on to board member reports. Ms. Hembry, do you have an update for us from the Education Foundation?
I was just going to give an extra shout out to the team at Shawnee Mission Education Foundation for all the work they've put on over the past month. Not only was the breakfast going on, but also the Scholarship Shawnee Mission, which I learned as a board member entails 40,000 award letters that had to get to the right students. It's just a massive logistical undertaking for that team. So kudos to them for a job well done. And I also wanted to especially thank them for opening the opportunity for so many people in the community to volunteer. I know most, if not all of us, got an opportunity to be part of handing out those award letters. And I think it was such a great opportunity to see our students, see them firsthand and get to be part of something that was a really exciting start to their post high school, post Shawnee Mission lives. So thanks to the team at Shawnee Mission Education Foundation.
Thank you. Reverend Guy, do you have an update for us from the KSB Board of Directors?
Just a reminder that the convention is next week. And so if you're going, you can see what some of the workshops are going to be and kind of determine what you want to prioritize and where you want to go. And we'll be talking more about the election of the KSB board president-elect coming up in a few minutes.
Thank you. Dr. Sinclair, do you have a legislative committee update for us?
The KASB Legislative Committee will convene November 7th at the convention, and I believe we will be reviewing our legislative platform today, so I will have that also as guidance. So thank you.
And Ms. Goodburn, do you have an update for us from the nominating committee?
I don't. Our job is done, and you have the two candidates that are going to be voted on at the KSB convention, and tonight we're having discussion under 3.03.
Thank you. Do you have an update for us from the policy review committee? I know we are doing our second read tonight.
We have a second read, item 7.01, a second read on a policy tonight. Our November meeting, we will not have our November meeting, and we will have our December meeting. I don't have the date in front of me, but I'll tell you in November.
Thank you. Mr. Stratton, do you have a finance and facilities update for us?
Yes, we had a recent meeting and covered a couple things. We walked through some of the year-to-date budget numbers, including specifically breakdowns on the federal dollars known as ESSER, both ESSER2 as well as ESSER3, the dollars to be distributed coming up. Good discussion. Thank you to the staff who helped put that together. Appreciate that. And then we also walked through the bond projects, update on all of the work that's being done around the district, some of which we're going to hear in just a minute in one of our reports. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll turn it back over to Dr. Hubbard and the financial team for the board financial report.
Thank you. Mr. Russ Knapp.
Yes, good evening. The September board financial reports are attached to the board agenda for your review. In addition, we were going to give you an update on the ESSER2 allocation, and that's up on the screen. As of October 20th, we have spent $4.2 million of our $10,564,000 award for just ESSER2. This also includes just short of $2 million for the $600 retention payment that we paid out on September 20th. And if you recall, we revised the original allocation to move $2.3 million of HVAC work over to the capital outlay fund and the bond fund. So we continue to do that work. We're just using different resources to pay for that. that allowed us to submit a revision and pay for that retention. In addition, HR has filled all the positions originally allocated, plus additional 4.5 FTE that it took to fill the elementary sections and adhere to the reduced elementary class sizes. So it took about 4.5 more FTE to get that accomplished. And I also wanted to point out the footnote at the bottom of that slide where we updated the years that we will be able to pay for those positions with ESSER money. So the extension would be to the 23-24 school year, and that would be paid for with SR3 monies. If you recall, we were awarded $23.7 million in SR3, so that'll help us pay for these positions through the next 2 years. And that's basically my report that I wanted to point out tonight, so I'll stand for any questions you might have.
I just want to add real quickly on SR3 that we are working to put together a thought exchange that will be going out probably in the next 2 weeks to gather additional input on the monies that are not allocated for positions. So it's about $2.3 million for each school year, the 22-23 and 23-24 school years, to get input on how to spend that $2.3 million each of those years, and that is required by the SR3 application.
So I had a couple of questions related to a question that I had raised at a previous board meeting, and I was told that it would probably be work to follow up to discuss it now during the financial report time. And the questions were related to if we bumped classified salary schedules up $2 an hour, what that cost would be. And initially, I think that you guys had said that it would be $375,000 just to move entry-level positions to a bottom of $15 an hour. But then the question after that was, what if we moved the whole salary schedule for that so that we wouldn't just be bumping incoming people, but people who had been here for a while would also see the benefit of that. Do you mind just going over what the results from that were, just briefly, or do you want me, I can go over what I know? I just want to have a conversation so that the other board members know what the results of that
I don't
were.
have the numbers in front of me, so if you do, you can read them off. But at the last board meeting, you asked how much it would cost to increase $2 per hour on each cell. So we worked up those numbers for you, and we looked at all the classified schedules. That would be custodial schedule, food service, general schedule, skill tech, and management professional. And that was about a $4.4 million price tag for all those. Okay. And then originally, the scenario worked up was about $375,000. That was the target, those hard to fill positions that are paraprofessionals on the general schedule. So if we just looked at those positions, trying to get them up to the $15 per hour to be competitive with our neighbor districts, it was the $375,000.
So on the breakdown that I have, it's for the general schedule would include all paras and aides. To bump that $2 an hour, it says that it would be $2.2 million. So was the 375 something else, or is that just?
That would be included in that 2.2.
Okay, and so but that was the 375 was just for paras.
Just for paras.
Okay.
That was just to move that first year entry point.
Right. So the 375 was just for paras and just to move the first year entry point.
Yes.
So if we were to move paras and aides, the entire schedule up $2, that would put the range at $14.88 to $26.06 an hour, and the cost for that, so those tough to fill spots, is $2 million or $2.2 million, and that's those are year-over-year expenses because that's the bump up. And then the rest of the breakdown to get to the 4.4, just so that folks are aware, for the custodial, to move that up, the $2 an hour would be $961,000. For food service, because it's my understanding we're also having trouble with nutrition service staffing.
That's correct.
So to move that up $2 an hour, so that the range would be $14.21 to $25.50. We're looking at about $500,000. Skilled techs, I'm not sure what constitutes skilled tech, so I might ask a follow-up on that one, but to move that range, $442,000. District resource officers, to move that, would be $31,000, and then MP non-exempt, there's $200,000 there. So for the toughest to fill spots would be that general group and then the food service group. So if you put those together, we're looking at $2.6 million year-over-year expenses to move up the $2 an hour.
That's correct.
And
Okay.
we would probably really need to analyze this with HR, but I think I would also add custodial in there as places that we're struggling to keep filled currently.
Can I ask just a clarifying question?
Yeah.
Process-wise, is this something we would be able to do outside of budgeting time or outside of when we're making allocations for SR3? Or like, if this was something that was a priority for the board, when and how would it come before us?
Well, that's always a board decision, but as a superintendent, I would recommend it should be done in a budgeting cycle. It would make for a very interesting conversation and very difficult decisions to do it in the middle of a year. It really needs to be done in a budget cycle.
And just so everybody watching or paying attention, can you give a brief detail of what the budgeting cycle looks like, where, you know, the different departments come and says, this is what we need to be prioritizing, and then, and how that works so that people know what that calendar looks like?
So I'll start, and then Russ, I'm going to ask you to jump in here, but we really go through every department. We give every department the opportunity to talk about their current budget. Do they need less money? Do they need more money? If they need more, what they need to be able to justify those decisions. We look at building enrollment, basically a needs assessment that you heard about during public comment. We do a building needs assessment in every building. We look at enrollment. We look at ELL students in those buildings, special education students in those buildings, at-risk students, at-risk dollars, how to support that, how to staff them accordingly based on all of those weightings. And that process usually begins November,
Yeah.
December.
Yep, we'll start in November with that process, getting the departmental budgets. And then the biggest piece of our budget, as you've heard over the years, is personnel, and Dr. Schumacher and his team will start the staffing in January and February, make sure we have enough teachers for all the different sections for the next school year.
And that's when we would have conversations about positions. Historically, we talked about social workers prior to ESSER, or this past year, you all said an important budgeting item was to increase para salaries, which we did, or classified salaries as a whole, which we did. So we set aside money to do that. So those would be the times when we would need to build it into the budget so that we knew where we needed to. I mean, if we're going to build in $4 million, we're going to have to reduce somewhere. I mean, that's just a given. There won't be $4 million worth of new monies. Is that an accurate statement, Ross?
That's correct.
And the other thing to take into consideration is that we know in ESSER dollars, and we are going to want to try and figure out how to maintain some of those positions.
Absolutely.
As well. And what was the price tag on those again that ESSER was covering? Can someone refresh my recollection on that?
It's roughly this, I think it's $9 million minus some of the specialty. It's probably $7 million. Russ, is that a good 7.5 million?
For the positions that ESSER is covering, so.
54
Covering now?
positions.
Right, the additional math teachers, the additional counselors, the additional social workers.
It's
Is
about
that it right there?
we're budgeting about 3.6 million for those
3.6.
positions, and we have another 2.1 in those long-term sub positions.
Thank you. I just wanted to have the food for thought conversation so that everyone knew what we were looking at with those numbers, because I know that it's been a topic that we've all had interest in with regards to raising that base salary so as to be more competitive, and since we're having trouble there. So that was all my questions. Does anybody else have any follow-up questions for us? Dr. Sinclair?
I have a process question, just bringing back to the discussion around, we have two different pots of money, SR2 and SR3 funds. And the district really tried to engage in some long-term planning of how we were going to provide those. learning recovery kinds of supports to students. So an expectation is that we would use SR3 dollars to continue what we've been doing through with SR2 dollars. There's an approval process though, however, right? So we still do need to submit that to the Department of Education for that plan to be approved for us to
That's correct.
use those. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yep.
Okay.
And we'll do that after the thought exchange that Dr. Hubbard mentioned.
So our goal is to have that done, submitted probably, we would bring it to you all for approval. The November 15th meeting is kind of our goal. Could be to the December meeting, but we would have it submitted by the first of the year.
And our expectation would be high that it would fit the expectations of the State Department of Education because it is a continuity, a continuation of what we've been already approved to do.
Yeah, I think that the majority of the plan already is highly focused on learning recovery. So I don't anticipate any concerns with them not approving our plan.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, I'm not seeing any further. Oh, Ms. Embry?
I just wanted to ask, I know when we came up with the plans for the SR2 funding, I believe, Dr. Hubbard, you convened like small groups to help arrive at those recommendations. Are those groups still in existence to help recommend how we spend these SR3 dollars?
So when we convened those teams, it was really a 3-year plan that we created at that point. However, in that elementary cares, middle school cares, and high school cares dollars at $675,000, those teams are still convening, at least in a subgroup manner, if they need to. In some cases, they don't really need to because they said, we want these things for 3 years. And so those dollars are pretty much set for the 3 years. The discretionary dollars would be above and beyond those, which is about the 2.3 that I discussed earlier.
Thank you. Thank you, Russ. It's appreciated. We have 3 items on our discussion section of the agenda this evening, and the first is the presentation about the Pawnee rebuild from Hollis & Miller. So I'll give it over to Dr. Hubbard to introduce our folks from Hollis & Miller.
So similar to Westwood View and John Deemer, we've had a process to get to where we are today, and I'm going to ask Mr. Clubb to introduce Hollis & Miller to share those, just kind of where we started and where we are now and where we've been in between. So, Mr. Clubb.
Good evening. So tonight we have a presentation on Pawnee, and I want to introduce Justin Durham, lead architect with Hollis & Miller, to help us walk through this presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Clubb. Dr. Hubbard, Madam President, members of the board, thank you for having me this evening. So much like we gave you, as Dr. Hubbard said, for Westwood, we wanted to give you guys an update on where we're at before we go out to bid with Pawnee Elementary. So I wanted to start with one of the things that we were charged with is really upping our communication and feedback loops, right, for the community, the staff, the students, all of our groups. So the first thing we started with, and we did this for our other elementaries too, was a thought exchange survey. So we went out, we asked about information on our last bonds, elementary schools, what they liked, what they thought could be improved, because we always want to get better. We want to learn from our past and then always progress and make those improvements. So we started with that, and then that changed into basically weekly meetings. So I have 2 slides of these, but these are what we call our visioning meetings. These are with the staff. We did them after schools on Tuesdays. We got good feedback. We walked through the process. We talked about every piece of the building that you can think of. An important one on this first slide is bottom middle, so that was our neighborhood update. So we actually had members of the neighborhood come in, and this was outside of the Overland Park required meeting that we did, but we had members of the community come in just so that we could talk to those neighborhood groups and really get a good feel for, their thoughts on the elementary school too. And then we moved into, and you'll see here, we talked specifically to each department. So we talked to the admin, the gym. We also talked to the media center specialist several times. So we really dove deep and tried to get as much feedback back from those specific departments in the elementary school that we could so that we could have a better output for the design. So it was a very robust, very fun group to work with and a good process. So with that, we'll jump right into some of the building updates. So we wanted to start with the site plan. So currently, Pawnee sits about where our parking lot sits here on the site. So the new building will be south or towards the back of the site. And some things that we have here is we have improved our parking lot, so we'll have a few more parking spaces than we currently have. and then we'll have 2 loops. So we have a dedicated loop for the parent drop-off and pickup, which is the entry to what would be the west side there. So you can see that large lot. We've provided enough stacking. We did a traffic study, so we have enough stacking to accommodate the parents so that we can get them off of 91st Street. That was one of the major concerns, not only from the parents to do the drop-off and pick-up every day, but some of our neighbors in the neighborhood. That was something that we heard in those feedback meetings. You'll see the smaller loop to the east. Right now, we don't have any buses at Pawnee, so right now those students we can separate by grade. They can use that as an opportunity for a secondary pickup and drop-off loop, or they can use it for buses when they do have buses in the future. So we kind of set this building up for whatever it may morph into as the school grows. We have some key elements here. So we do have our walking path on the south side of the site. So that's something that we've developed in all of our elementary schools. So around the playground, you'll have a nice walking path that people will be able to access in the evenings. Then those gates will be closed for a nice, secure, safe place for those kids to play during the day. We do have a sidewalk that ties in from the neighborhood to the east off of England Street. It was very important to the neighborhood to keep that connection. A lot of community members and a lot of students kind of use that as a path back and forth to the elementary school. So that provides that nice path without having to go all the way up to 91st Street and then drop back down into the site. You can see there that we have sidewalks in off of 91st Street, off of England. So we tried to do that walkability piece where if, we do have walkers, they're not crossing paths and roads and things like that. So for a nice, safe entry into the facility. So this is the view of, oops, we skipped. This is the view of the front door. So this is what you would see as you come in off of 91st Street and you park in those parking lots that we talked about. So you'll see the nice long canopy there across the front that says Pawnee Elementary School. That's going to give some nice, weather protection on snow days, rain days, things like that as students are waiting for drop-off and pickup. Nice glass tower there. This is one of the options that we presented them, and this is kind of what they picked. Nice glass tower there. One of the things that we heard about the old Pawnee Elementary was that they wanted to modernize the new, right? So we introduced some nice browns and tan brick colors, some nice metal panel, and then they wanted to add some glass for some modern elements. So we were able to incorporate that here in that front entry for them. This is a look from the back. So this is what the back of the school looked like from the playground as you look back towards it. The gymnasium is the gray box over to the right, and that is our ICC 500 storm shelter. So that's where the students could go if there was ever a weather event, and they would be nice and safe in that shelter. And then here's a look from the back of the school. So again, we wanted to be very mindful of our neighbors and not put that big box gym on either side right next to England or Grant Streets on the east or the west. So what we had done is we've kind of tucked the gymnasium kind of into the middle of the site and left the school to kind of taper off as it gets closer to those neighbors, just to be mindful to give them a good view and to keep those larger volumes kind of off of those areas there. You'll notice the site right to the right there, which is the canopy that comes out of the back of the cafeteria. So there's a nice covered outdoor eating area for nice days where maybe a parent or the students could go out and have lunch outside. And then this is that walkway that comes in currently from England. So as you would come out of that neighborhood to the east and you walked into the site, this is kind of how you would approach the front door. So the glass box that you're seeing there on the right-hand side of the building, that is our media center. So it is front and center, right up for you to see every day as you come in and out of the building. And you can kind of see that we taper off as we get closer to the street here, to this approach. And we left those bigger, taller school volumes more towards the middle, just to be as mindful as we could to our neighbors. Talk a little bit about the interior of the building. So this is a 76,000 square foot elementary school. It's our bigger of the two. So we have 4 classrooms per section. You'll notice that we have 2 levels. So first level, we have our gymnasium, the kitchen, the cafeteria, the media center, a lot of those main spaces that the public could use. And then we have, that would be our public wing. And then as you move to the left on the plan, that would be able to be separated for nights and weekends, we have our academic wing. So this will allow us to have nighttime events, the community in the building, but we can go ahead and shut off those areas that they don't necessarily need to be in and keep those academic wing spaces more private. We talked a lot about collaboration spaces and things that we could do for spaces outside of the classroom. So here we've highlighted a few where we're going to have some learning stairs, some built-in counters, much like you saw with the last elementary school builds that we did. We want to really maximize that corridor space, not as just people mover space, but spaces that the students and the staff can use each and every day. One of the things that we focused on here that was very important to this staff and this community was our SPED resource and flex classroom areas. So these are our support services. So we've got one flex kindergarten pre-K classroom that we can use. We have 4 half-size classrooms, 2 per floor. We have sensory rooms and reset rooms on each floor, so they're easily accessible for the staff and the students. We have some testing rooms, and then we have 1 flex office for individuals that may travel from school to school so that they have a base that they can touch down in when they do visit Pawnee. And to get to some of the renderings that we had done, so as you walk in the front door, this is some of the look that you will see. You know, nice warm wood welcome reception desk with some nice colors. Good visibility, safety and security is always paramount, so we have good visibility out of the building, and you'll come in through that secure vestibule, just like you do on all of our sites, to access the building. As you move in, graphics and signage was very important to this group, so we have places around the building that we can show off student work, student achievement, you know, members of the staff that are being honored every week and every month. So we've started to put those around the building, so you'll see the Growing Future Leaders there, and that's just a place where you can tuck in a quick 4x6 picture and just highlight some students or some staff or some work that's been done at Pawnee. Interior of the media center, so we use graphics a lot to kind of brighten up a space and liven it up. So this is the media center, and lots of great windows, lots of bright sun, good daylight coming in. Very open space, so what we've tried to do is kind of focus more of our bookshelves and things like that around the perimeter of the room and leave the interior, the middle space, more open for a flexible learning environment. As the media centers kind of morph and change from just being used for libraries and books, they now become a secondary teaching place where the kids go to do all sorts of things with their laptops and iPads and do lots of fun activities. So we wanted to leave that space very open and flexible for them to do that. And then we bring in some fun graphics just to highlight some of the fun things that they could find through the day. A look at the typical classroom. So this is what you would see as you walk in the classroom and you're looking out towards the outside. So you'll see those nice tall windows that bring in lots of daylight, high ceilings, and then what we've got here is some nice cubbies, a sink in each classroom, and just wide open fun space for the kids. And then if we were on that back wall looking back, you can see more of those student cubbies. You'll see that door, the glass wall right from the entry room into the classroom. So one of the things that the staff at Pawnee liked was having the connectivity from classroom to classroom because they do like to blend classes and co-teach a little bit. So we gave them that ability to open up those doors and kind of have access from classroom to classroom and kind of blend that learning environment so they can co-teach and they can do things together as a group that they currently try to do in their current space. We're just trying to make it a little bit easier for them to facilitate that in the new. So you saw that big glass tower on the exterior as you come into the front as you approach the building. Well, this is what it would look like from the inside. So right here we have our art classroom in front of us. Behind us would be a makerspace. And so those 2 classrooms open up to this nice bright glass wall, this tower that faces out over that front parking lot. Lots of great views. You can use it kind of an art gallery. Those classrooms can open up and spill out into that space and really take advantage of that awesome area. And one of the things that we started to focus on the last round with Westwood View is some outdoor learning opportunities. So this is up on the 2nd level, and it's a nice outdoor classroom on the backside of the makerspace. So you can do those fun makerspace activity items in the makerspace, but then they have big doors that open up and go outside that they can take those learning opportunities and get some fresh air on nice days to do those things outside too. So with that, that's kind of the quick update. I'll open it up for questions if you guys have any.
Do we have some questions about the Pawnee rebuild?
I just have a quick
Go for it.
comment. I just want to thank you for incorporating the feedback from the community and all the variety of sessions that you had to get input from the folks who would be living with this and using this on a daily basis.
Yep, you're welcome.
It's greatly appreciated and really helps the outcome of the final product.
Yes, we had a great neighborhood group with this one. Yep.
Exciting. It looks great.
It looks great.
It does.
Very good.
Where are the tornado shelters? I was just looking at the big glass tower, and the first thing that popped into my head was,
Yeah.
sorry, that might be
Nope,
morbid,
you're fine.
but-
We'll go back to the floor plan. So
Thanks.
you'll see the big glass tower, you see where it says Media Center,
Mm-hmm.
and then you see Art and Makerspace up on the top level. Yeah, Tyro pointed out. So on the second floor, Tyler, up on the top, it's the northeast corner. There you go. So that glass tower is right there where it says tower. So our storm shelter is the gym, which is on the lower level right there. And so that's kind of centrally located right off at the end of the academic wing, which is where if something were to happen, a lot of our students will go out of the academic wing and it'll be right there as they enter kind of into that public space, and they'll go right into the gymnasium, which is our ICC 500 shelter.
Okay.
Yes.
Anybody? Reverend Guy?
Thank you for this presentation. This is exciting. My kids went to Pawnee, and so I know that this rebuild has been long, long overdue.
Yes.
I think the neighborhood's going to be really excited about this. And so thank you for keeping that walkway off of England, because I know that is very important to them. I'm just thinking back to, I think it was the design for Westwood View that the teachers there had wanted single stall bathrooms, like for each 2 classrooms. I'm not seeing that on the Pawnee plan. Was that something the teachers didn't necessarily want? Or?
Yep, that is correct. So that was one of our meetings. So those design meetings that I talked to you about, one of the things that we talked about in depth was the restroom choices that we had. So you'll remember that, you're right, at Westwood we had individual restrooms per classroom. I think John Deemer did it a little bit separate, where they had that space in between classrooms that you could use the restroom. And we gave them choices. We said, you can pick this one, this one, this one, or a blend of what, so you guys kind of tell us. So that conversation ended up that we did want to keep restrooms in the kindergarten classrooms for that easy access for our smallest ones, right, our littlest learners. And then what their choice was to do more of the single privacy restrooms, but have them to where they weren't inside the classroom. So they would be more centrally located in the academic wing. So you'll see them, how we have like a block of 4 and then an offset in the building. Those restrooms would then serve those students more centrally, kind of like we have them now. So our focus was more on privacy within the corridors instead of those individual restrooms in the classrooms.
Are there any other?
I have just one. Can you talk to me about storage? I hear that a lot from teachers as being a priority.
Yeah. So that was one of the lessons learned from our first round of schools. We really wanted to up the storage within the building. So the way we've done that currently is, I think we got that figured out with Brookwood. So we've gotten lots of good feedback from that staff. So we kind of use that as our jumping off point. That's kind of the minimum of stories that we're going to allow anymore. So what we've done here is we've taken that. We did tour this staff through Brookwood to show them, and they got to talk with those teachers to see how the classrooms worked and how the storage was, how the cubbies were, because it's the unknown, right? So we walked them through there. They heard it from the other teachers. So we use Brookwood as the model. And then we've also added a few places. So we have a new principal, and Carrie kind of looked through this as well, and she said, well, if I had a nice storage room off of the office that I could put carts and things in. So we accommodated that in the plan for her when she got on board, and some other things. So we did walk through with the staff, showed them some options, and then we're providing plenty of storage in the classrooms, not only with built-in casework and upper cabinets, but we have some small storage rooms throughout the building too that are kind of off the hallway and off the office, so that you can tuck in like a computer cart or some other things that, randomly show up in buildings, because they do need storage and it always fills up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm not seeing any further questions. Thank you very much for the presentation. It's appreciated. The next item on our agenda is item 3.2, the PLC Institute presentation.
So, yeah, as you guys recall, over the past really 4 to 5 years, we've sent several team members to the PLC Institute, and there's just always been this feel of why can't we send more, and so we were very limited on the funds that we have, and so as the SR Cares teams came together, that is something that showed up in elementary, middle, and high school as a priority, is professional learning around professional learning communities. So I don't want to steal any more of their thunder, but I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Dennis and Dr. Gonzer to talk about the PLC Institute.
Thank you, Dr. Hubbard, and Dr. Hubbard did steal quite a bit of our thunder, actually. That's a really good summation of what we wanted to say. We're very excited about this prospect that we're sharing with you tonight. And with anything that we do, we run it through a lens of how does this fit in with our strategic plan. We feel like it fits in very well, and I'll have more specific information about that shortly.
So first, we just want to describe to you exactly what it is that we're proposing. We are proposing hosting a full-scale PLC Institute put on by the Solution Tree Group. This would be identical to the conference that we have sent our team members to over the course of the last 5 years. It would include all of the keynote sessions, all of the breakout sessions, all of the materials, books, things that go along with it. It would be a full-scale PLC Institute. I know some of you have had the opportunity to attend that in the past as well, so you're a little bit familiar with it. The only difference would be it would be exclusive to our Shawnee Mission teachers, so we're very excited about that.
So let me share with you a little bit about the why, and we'll begin with the definition of what a PLC is. I think a lot of people think of a professional learning community as a time, a meeting, but when you look at a well-functioning PLC, what you're really looking at is an ongoing process in which educators are working collaboratively, and they're in recurring cycles of collective inquiry, there's action research, all with a focus around student learning and improving the results that we see with kids. But it's more than a meeting, it's more than time and a schedule, it's about collaboration, it's about relationships, and how we do that effectively together. If you look at the research, and this is Dr. Hattie's research, and I've referenced him several times, but according to him, the number one thing that we can do to improve student outcomes is what he calls collective teacher efficacy. And that is that collaborative work, that work together as a team in order to improve student outcomes and believing in each other and supporting each other. So we feel like this conference and the feedback we've had from people who've gone to it really fits in with that goal of collective teacher efficacy that research indicates is so important. It is also directly connected to our strategic plan. If you look at the 5 strategies in our strategic plan, there's a direct connection to at least 4 of them. We're talking about the culture of the district and how we work together. We're investing in people. We're building systems to help support student learning. So those 4 very clearly fit in. The one that doesn't fit as neatly, at least not as obviously, is the one around facilities. So why is this important? As Dr. Hubbard said, we have sent over 300 teachers and principals to this conference nationally in the last 5 school years. And almost to a person who has come back from those, they've said, we really believe in this work and we think it would benefit our team if we could get more people to attend and participate. When the CARES ESSER team met, the elementary, middle, and high school teams met last year, all 3 groups identified this conference as a priority for our planning for the next cycle. So this is about investment in teachers and in learning and impacting our culture to improve outcomes for kids. The other thing I just wanted to point out is we had conversations with Solution Tree about this possibility. They said that this has never been done where a conference, a national conference of this magnitude has been focused around a single school district. And so we're very excited to offer this opportunity.
All right, so let's talk through some of the logistics of how we would put on an event of this magnitude and scale. So first we want to talk about the when and where. We're proposing to host this conference June 7th through the 9th. There are a few different reasons behind those dates. A major factor being we need 3 consecutive days to host this conference. So June 7th through the 9th are the proposed days. And that also allows us to count this time towards our teacher-directed professional learning time. So our teachers could in turn be credited for this time later on in the school year. Locations. Location for an event like this is tricky. There are very few places in the metro area that have the capacity to hold an event to this scale, but another unique challenge is not only do we need large spaces for keynote sessions that would hold 2,000 people, we also need a venue that has enough breakout sessions to accommodate all of those. So it's very few places that could actually accommodate this conference. And of those few options, we went with the one that is the most convenient, best parking, most highway access, and proximity towards other resources. And that happens to be Church of the Resurrection in Leawood. So that's the when and where. Of course, something this large is going to require some funds. Let's talk through the budget being proposed as well. It would cost us $500 per staff member that we sent. That's approximately a $200 discount of what we normally pay. We're usually spending about $710 per person. And the total to send people to this conference typically in our typical fashion when we're sending them out of state costs about $2,000 per person. Because of course we have to consider travel and lodging and those things. Over the course of the last 5 years, we've had the opportunity to send 300 people. If we were to expand that out over time at the rate that we're going, it would take us 30 years to send 2,000 people. So the grand total of this event would come to $1 million. We're taking that money from SR2 funds because, again, that was prioritized at all 3 levels of our SR committees. Also wanted to bring your attention to the PLC conference cost comparison. So what this graphic illustrates for you in the blue bar there is this would be the total cost to send 2,000 staff members to the PLC Institute in the same fashion that we have been, so continuing to send them across the country. And that comes to about $4 million if we were to proceed with the way that we're doing it. By hosting the conference ourselves and paying $500 per attendee, we can get that cost down to $1 million. So although it is a significant investment, it's also a significant savings. You might be wondering exactly what would we be sharing with our staff members? What is the content or behind this? So really the main focus is strategies to build and sustain a strong and collaborative PLC. That's the focus of all of it. All of the key leaders from Solution Tree, key leaders in education today will be there giving these presentations, and they'd also be available for networking and questioning as well. Of course, there'd be strategies to infuse PLC at work process into every aspect of our schools, and there would be a lot of opportunities for teacher choice. So a good portion of the conference is breakout sessions that teachers would get to choose what was the most appropriate for themselves, their teams, their schools. Lots of Q&A time as well as panel discussions where our teachers would have the opportunity to interact directly with the presenters from Solution Tree. And for those buildings who may just be beginning to explore PLCs, it's a really great way to build that culture and that knowledge base behind PLCs. But for those who are already deeply involved in implementation, it's also a great opportunity to revisit your mission, refine some of your practices, and expose your new team members to the concepts of PLC as well. Registration, how would we get all of these team members signed up? Again, we have the opportunity to send 2,000 staff members. We want to make registration simple, quick, easy for teachers. It cannot be a hurdle. So it would be a very streamlined process. It'd be a QR code and a link that would take them to a very brief Google form because we would be managing this internally because it would essentially be our conference. There wouldn't be a need to go through the full registration process with Solution Tree for every individual team member. It'd be very brief, and everyone could get that done pretty quickly. That is a live QR code, so you have access to what that registration form would look like since it's already built too. We're also in the process of forming a steering committee that would help to guide this work, and really the key to it is ensuring that there are multiple perspectives represented when we begin planning. And we have requested membership from all 3 levels of our district, as well as all feeder patterns, and lots of varieties of specialty areas as well. The committee would meet monthly to begin with, and then probably more frequently than that as we got closer to the actual event. And just want to give thanks in advance to anyone from that has already volunteered to serve on a committee like this or who is already involved. And with that, I want to invite some guests up to share with you briefly this evening. We have some of our PLC steering committee volunteers here with us this evening who also have attended this conference previously as teachers in our school district. So they're here tonight to just share with you a little bit about the value in this conference and what they took away from it as educators. So thank you in advance to Jeremy Wayne and Kelly Bornheimer and Linda Seek, if you guys want to come on up and join us.
Good evening. I'm Jeremy Wayne. I am an instructional coach at Westridge Middle School. This is my 7th year in the district. Before I came to this district, I had worked in a prior district where I was familiar with the PLC model and worked with the PLC model on a daily basis. So I was excited to go to the conference when I went approximately 3 years ago in Arkansas. Being able to learn directly from experts in education and education research was a great opportunity that I still refer back to in my practice. The keynote speakers, many of whom were nationally known, but in some cases internationally known, were exciting and were inspiring. However, the most impactful speakers that I was able to experience at the conference were the classroom teachers who were steeped in the PLC model that had traveled from around the country to take their time to share their knowledge and practice with us. As a teacher, I felt like hearing from other teachers who were in their classrooms, current teachers, not retired or teachers that had moved on to consulting, but that were going to go back to their classrooms in August, coming to take their time to share their practice and excitement for the model was the most impactful thing for me. Attending the conference strengthened my understanding of the model, improved my teaching practice, and got me excited to get back to my school to put my new learning in place. I was very grateful for the opportunity to attend the PLC conference in Arkansas, and I really hope that as many of my colleagues that would like to attend have that opportunity as well. Thanks.
My name is Kelly Bornheimer, and I'm an instructional coach at Benninghoven Elementary. I've been with the district for 8 years now, and I was able to attend the Solutions Tree PLC conference in 2019 with a group of Shawnee Mission teachers and administrators. I was lucky enough to have 2 teachers from my building in my group, as well as my building principal, Dr. Gonzer. Going to the sessions with my team and watching them apply what they were learning to our school and plan as we went how they would bring it back was just so powerful. The conference is inspiring, as Jeremy said. The speakers at the conference show you that a PLC is not a grade level team. It is a whole school. That everyone in the building is mutually accountable for every student in the building. They help you remember that the purpose of the educator is not to make sure students are taught, but to ensure that they learn. At the conference, you are walked through the process of a PLC and are given the examples of struggles that you will encounter along the way. But what they also do is show you that those struggles are the only way to get to true collaboration and innovation, where students and teachers both learn more. The educators that attend the conference come back changed, with a new vision about what is possible for each and every student, and they share that passion with their colleagues. I am encouraging all of my staff members to attend the conference if they are able, because it is definitely changes you as an educator.
Good evening. I'm Linda Seek, and I teach Spanish at Shawnee Mission East, and I also am still serving as the NEA Shawnee Mission president, and I think I begged Dr. Hubbard for the opportunity to go see what this PLC conference was that I heard so much as in my role as NEA Shawnee Mission president. I would attend from time to time principals meetings and hear discussions about it, and we were kind of doing it at school, but I guess my colleagues and I would say we really didn't have a big picture. So I convinced that we'd have a great time, 3 of my fellow Spanish teachers at East, and we attended the conference, and it was mind-blowing. It was transformational for me, thinking about my grading process. It really framed what PLCs were. As a classroom teacher, I came back, and I have to tell you that kind of a big disappointment was there were 4 of us, and we were Spanish teachers. We weren't core teachers. We weren't even our whole department. We were just a singleton, if you will, Spanish. And for many years, we had this experience that no one else in our building had. And so I think one of the really exciting things about an institute is you will have such a widening perspective of the PLC process, how empowering it can be for teachers, how the benefits for our students. And right now, I think we're still struggling in many places for people who have not had this experience before to really wrap their minds around, the power of PLC, what it can do, what it looks like. And so I'm hoping that, as everyone else has said tonight, many of my colleagues will take advantage of this. And I'm just going to put a shameless plug in this to say that at high school, we have had tremendous, tremendous benefit of a late start for weekly PLCs. And it has probably had the greatest effect on pushing this process forward. So I am here also just to advocate whatever we can do to provide that time for our elementary and middle teachers. I think you take this PLC Institute and then you provide that resource of time so that people can really take what they learned and immediately begin to implement it. I think the results, the impact on our students could really be long-lasting and pretty miraculous. Thank you.
So that concludes our presentation. We would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Do we want to start and move our way down? Ms. Embry, do you have any questions?
Ms. Seek started alluding to this. I'm just curious, once we do get so many of our staff trained up on PLCs, which I've heard phenomenal things about, what happens next and how we start incorporating it into our daily instructions.
We have multiple responses, so we'll each be brief. I'd say a critical element of that will, of course, be ongoing professional learning. This would be a tremendous start and really get us off and running. But then the continuation of professional learning, along with just that daily practice and doing it day in and day out to refine our work, too.
In our buildings right now, we are doing PLCs. What I've heard from a lot of people is, they should be teacher-led, and they should be teacher-led. But until we can get these teachers trained, it's hard for them to be teacher-led. So right now, we are having PLCs in our buildings. We don't quite have enough time. Teachers that find it beneficial are staying for longer amounts of time, but we are doing them currently in our buildings, and instructional coaches and a lot of times principals are helping guide that process, just kind of being there to help the process move forward, asking the right questions, helping them out. And I know instructional coaches at every level are helping that process in their buildings.
And I can add one more thing, not to rely too much on my personal experience, but I had worked in the PLC model before at another district. We have PLCs that are functioning and that are running in our buildings now. However, the experience of attending this conference strengthened and extended my knowledge in a way that I can hardly describe. Like, it was really big. So in order to get our PLCs fully functional and autonomously functional, I think this would be a great opportunity for them.
I think I would just add that you've heard that we do have PLCs actively taking place in our schools. I think the difference is taking it from just an actively functioning PLC to a high functioning PLC. And the more people that you can get trained on that model, the more collective capacity you build within schools.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Ms. Goodburn?
My only question was, I think that's after the school year's done, and how are we going to get the word out and make sure that we make it, and what do teachers, I know it sounds like it's a fabulous conference and we're going to have probably lots and lots that want to come, but kind of that carrot to get people to come if we're expending this kind of money to come to it when it's summertime already. And also any new recruits that we get this year going into next year, what's the plan? Because their contracts don't start until August, so my only questions.
I'll start it, and I'm sure Dr. Gonzer will maybe have some additional follow-up ideas. One of the functions of the steering committee that Dr. Gonzer referred to is to help promote it. So we're going to be actively looking for ways to reach out to people. I know that we're planning to visit schools and have individual conversations and talk to faculty meetings to really reach out with this message. There will be communication, the communications team with David Smith and his group are helping to formulate the message as well. So we're going to try to make it as easy as possible for people to register and attend. And absolutely, part of the reason that we're doing this in the summer or the early summer, early part of the break, is to be able to catch the people who are joining our team for the fall. So they would also be eligible for that teacher-directed time as well.
For the credit that they would get for attending that, would that get, they wouldn't have to do some professional development during the next school year? They would have those days off, or if they do attend this?
That's correct. It would meet the requirements for our 2 teacher-directed professional development days for the school year. So currently we have teachers logging and accumulating minutes and hours towards meeting those requirements. Those would all be done and taken care of already by attending this conference. So it would essentially result in 2 days of not reporting to work later in the school year. Also, we're trying to be very conscious about other things that we schedule. Oftentimes we have our Impact Institute and other trainings and things this same time. We're really kind of clearing the space during June and only focusing on this, essentially sending the message that if you have the ability to prioritize and attend something, we ask you to choose this so that we can focus on it.
Thank you.
So if we are able to capture the majority of our folks with this summer program, would we not continue to do the PLC training every year where we send a few people? Would we be done?
We would either need to do a train the trainer model for our newbies, or we would send some of the new people annually.
And then during PLC days or professional learning days during the school year, people get paid for that. So are they going to be paid to attend those over those 3-day windows? Is it a paid, or is it we're just paying for the programming and then that's on their own time, and then they'll get paid for the days during the year, but they don't have to do them during the year?
That's correct. And if you go during the school year, obviously you get paid, but if you attend during the summer, we have not paid people that attend during the summer.
But they'll get paid for the days during the year that would otherwise be professional development.
They'll get the
that they don't have
self-directed.
to go.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Sinclair?
As a board member, we were invited to attend, I believe it's called the leadership training. It's a couple of days before, when the building leadership teams come together before school starts and students are here. And I have never heard cheers and applause when this was announced that the PLC conference would be offered. I thought like the room was going to explode. The staff in the building were so excited. So I thought that was a huge testament to the importance of this. But it also feels very timely as we're shifting and allowing our secondary staff to have a course load of 5 of 7 and increase their collaboration time. And so to have some professional development around maximizing our use and maximizing use around professional learning community seems also to be very timely, along with the fact that we have a whole cohort of students who've experienced the global pandemic and really focusing on learning and recovery. So I think there's so many pieces about this that are incredibly timely. And I don't know if this question makes sense, but is there a specific example that you could bring this to life a little bit more about what a PLC, like what type of issue would a PLC be working on? Like what's one very common example, just to bring it to life a little bit more about the work of a PLC?
So I work with grade level teams in the PLC, and our focus is on the 4 PLC questions. What do we want students to learn? How will they know? How will we know when they've learned it? What will we do if they have not learned it? And then what will we do if they have learned it and we need to extend them? So every PLC meeting is focused around those questions. So in those meetings, what do we want our students to learn? Well, that's our priority standards. So we break down those priority standards. What do we want our students to know? How do we break it down? We use our proficiency scales that we've built in curriculum. We look at exactly what we want those students to know. How are we going to teach that? How are we going to work collaboratively as a team to teach that? And then how are we going to formatively assess that along the way and find out if they've learned it or not, and then intervene if they have not learned it, and then push those students that have learned it. So it's just that process of working collaboratively as a team through our standards, and I think it really gives teachers clarity on what their students know and exactly where they are at on each one of those standards. So it brings the teachers clarity, and it helps us move students along because we know where they're at and we know where they need to be.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Stratton?
I'm trying to figure out a way to ask my questions that don't sound like an episode of Shark Tank, but we'll give it a try here. I'm intrigued by the slide that says this has never been done before. And when I see that and hear this presentation, my ears perk up a couple of ways. One of them is the price tag and the cost, and you did a good job of talking about that. I'm turning it and saying, okay, is this an opportunity for us to monetize it? Meaning, because it's the first time this has ever been done, and there are going to be other partners watching as this is being done, and we're pulling them into this process. Has this been part of the conversation? Meaning, is this a model? Is it something that some of our staff folks will eventually be asked to go help other districts create? Can we get compensated for that? So I'll just kind of throw that out. You see where I'm going with that is because we're creating something literally from scratch, is there a way that we can benefit beyond certainly the wonderful benefit of all of our staff being able to attend?
I think I'll take a stab at that. I would say that in terms of monetizing it for Shawnee Mission, I would say we would probably not be able to do that just because we're bringing Solution Tree in, and this is their work basically in terms of professional learning communities. Now we could offer up spots and charge districts to bring teachers if we do not fill every seat. That would be a way to gain back some of those dollars.
Great, thanks. That's what I was going to ask too, is there a way to incorporate neighboring districts? And then the last part is, do we get to archive it, memorialize it? Is this a tool that we can put in an archive form to be able to use in the future?
My guess would be Solution Tree would be against that.
I tried.
It was a good try.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton. Reverend Guy?
So I see on your presentation that the plan is to use SR2 funds to pay for this. And so I just want to say, I think that's a really creative use of those funds. One of my concerns with using ESSER funds is we'll use them simply on short-term things, and then, when those 2 or 3 years are passed, as a district, we'll have nothing really to show for it other than hopefully some improved student academic success. But this looks to me like an investment that's going to pay dividends for teachers and students years and years after the ESSER funds are gone. And so I just applaud you for kind of the long-range view of this that I think really is going to benefit the district for years to come. I think that's a great way to use our ESSER funds. So thank you for that.
Ms. Borkman?
It's really hard going last. Thank you so much. What a great presentation. I can just tell the excitement and the enthusiasm that you all bring to the PLC conference. I'm excited that Shawnee Mission teachers have this opportunity. So that's amazing. So part of what I do kind of in my professional life is I track a lot of return on investment and ROI, right? And so that way, if we want to repeat something, I make it really hard for my management team to tell me no. And so I, kind of like, I don't, again, like Mr. Stratton said, I don't want to make this like a Shark Tank type thing, but is there some way that we could, there's been a lot of anecdotal evidence that you guys have mentioned, that's great. And we need to be excited about things, and that's wonderful. Additionally, because there is such a hefty price tag on this, is there some way that we can track or measure what you learn at the PLC conference, that you're producing these amazing outcomes in the classroom where kids are really benefiting, where kids are growing, so that way when the ESSER funds do run out and you come to the board and say, man, we got to do this again. I know it's a hefty price tag, but this is concrete data. We've measured this, and here's why you can't tell us no. Is that possible? Is that an option? Would that be something that Dr. Dan Grumman could, work with us on, or what are your thoughts on that?
So I want to just say a couple things. Annually, we spend more than $1 million sending people to conferences, but it's not nearly as targeted as this. So it might be 2 or 3 people here, group of 5 here. And so the price tag really, while it feels hefty, we're doing that annually anyway. Okay, so this one is just a very focused effort based on what other people have done. And as you hear the testimonials, and when Linda says that she pretty much begged me to go, she did, along with a whole lot of others. And I mean, it's constant. I mean, and building principals will lobby regularly. How can I get one more person, Michelle? Please, can I just have one more person or 2 more people? And so that has been going on for a lot of years. So I don't want it to feel like this is this huge price tag that, yes, we're doing it in addition to what we would typically spend out of Title II. So it's great to have this additional money, but we'll still be spending the Title II dollars for those things that we were already doing. So it's a nice bonus on top of that. And also I would add, and I'm going to speak for them on this, and they'll probably add to it, but we always do sort of qualitative assessments after an instructional fair, after any professional learning, to say, was this beneficial? Why was it beneficial? And I can only imagine that steering committee and this team is working on that as well. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
So after each session, we would have data, and then keynotes would have data. So every session there would have data to support the learning.
I know y'all didn't ask this question, but as someone who's thinking as a classroom teacher, 3 days in June, how are we going to get people to this conference? I think that's a fair question. And there's also some skepticism from people because PLCs, we know, we want them to be teacher-directed. Teachers want to be able to direct that focus on learning and be empowered to do so. And so I know that Jill Johnson, our Vice President for NEA Shawnee Mission, and I are going to work with our building reps to explain in depth what this conference would provide for teachers and to hopefully be able to answer some questions. I think what will get people really excited about going will be the idea that they will have the tools to work with their colleagues to share the workload, to not work harder, to work better, to work collaboratively, and that will be empowering. I felt empowered when I came from this conference, and 2 of the 3 other ladies that were with me are still in the district, still at East, and we still, have conversations and build in our own PLCs a lot from what we've learned from that. But we have to get that message out as to how that will just have such a daily impact on their work, and then for the success of their students as well. So we have to work on that messaging and get that out there.
Thank you. Yeah, it's easier. Everything, this feels very conceptual to me, which is awesome, and I get that. I would love at some point to hear like a more tangible report as to, how the PLCs have benefited the classroom. So thank you so much. Sorry, Dr. Gonzar, did you want to add?
No, I was just going to extend on the conversation about focused and consistency. I think the number one piece of feedback that I have heard from our teachers since coming into this role is their desire for focused, consistent professional learning district-wide. That is very difficult to provide in a district this size, and it is very rare that we have an opportunity to provide the same very high quality professional learning to everyone across our district. So I think that's a huge benefit of this as well. And just to be that focused on it, it's one of our key goals as a district. It's critical to our strategic plan. The conversation about focus came up, so I thought that was worth mentioning as well.
Thank you so much. An investment in your people is always a good thing, so
yeah.
Thanks.
One thing to add to that, We may not see it directly correlate to a state assessment or an ACT score, but we can say that there are common formative assessments that teachers build together, and so they can look at that data, make those data-driven decisions to affect instruction. And if I'm a biology teacher and Dr. Atha is a biology teacher and we are given the same scores, and you know what, Dr. Atha's scores in his class are a lot higher. What instructional practices is he providing in his classroom that I may not be providing in my classroom that can help student learning? So that drives, student learning and improvement.
If I could just extend on that as well, this is really built around an idea of improved student learning as the final outcome. If you think about the questions that Kelly was talking about, it's all around what can we do better and how do we take the data we have and then translate that into more learning.
I'll just add, this isn't really a question, but more of an observation that after the last year and a half, the opportunity to have every educator go to the same training together here locally, to have that opportunity to interact with their team, I think that sounds pretty amazing considering what we're coming out of with regards to COVID and the amount of stress that we've had for the last year and a half. I know just professionally for us, trying to get people to, get back together, to work together and have those meetings of the minds has been difficult. And so the professional learning is a good overall, but the idea of being able to hit everybody at once, I know when they go travel, I've talked to multiple teachers who ended up sharing rooms with each other to, cut down on the cost expense. And so the idea of not having to do the travel, but to have the experience here locally sounds like a nice creative solution. So that's appreciated. But yes, I mean, if Brad can come up with some sort of Shark Tank idea, just keep us posted at the ready. All right. Are there any further questions on this item? Thank you very much for the presentation. It's appreciated. The final discussion item this evening is on the KASB President-elect selection. Reverend Guy is graciously going to represent us in that vote, and we need to be able to provide her with our guidance. This isn't a vote that we take because ultimately Reverend Guy is the person who cast the vote, but this is an opportunity for us to discuss it. And I thought maybe Ms. Goodburn could give us just a brief recap. She sent the candidate profiles to us for us to review. So I'll have you do a brief recap and then we can discuss and Laura can have an idea of what she's doing.
Sorry, I was on the nominating committee, so I heard I spent an hour with both of these candidates, and some of them you all know from serving KSB Board of Directors and in other ways. But and today I did send the link. They both candidates, Laura and Art, did videos and also had some candidate questions and interview information that was out there. So the nominating committee. Sometimes we'll have one, and I've been on it for a number of years now, so 1 to 3 candidates at any time, and we listen to there's a member that's represented from each of the different regions all across the state that go and do this work on a Saturday and in the fall. So this time, sometimes we send forward 1 candidate, sometimes, this is my first time with 2. So the nominating committee sent forth the 2, felt that both candidates were qualified to serve in this position, and then we'll leave it up to the vote at the KSB annual convention to elect our new president-elect. So I don't know if you want me to get into specifics. Everybody has basically the same information I had. I guess the only thing I had was an hour of interviewing. So I can give my own personal opinion if you want that, or I don't know what we want.
Well, I think at some point we probably all will end up giving our personal opinion, just so that Laura has an idea of what she's heading in with.
Sure.
So yeah, if you want to give your personal
I'll start with my own personal opinion. I thought they both presented themselves very well. They just have different personalities, which is fine. They both have served their boards. And their local boards. well, and for a number of years. They both have been involved in KSB, which I think is very important too, to have that experience. They've been region vice presidents. I would say probably one difference was one candidate, Art, had a little bit of trouble with talking about vouchers when that was brought up, because sometimes we bring up things that are current topics and stuff. So talking about that, that was a little bit maybe of a weakness, and maybe that's just something he needs to learn more about. I don't know. So both of them, though, were very, very, I thought, willing and able to serve in the position. I would say I would probably give I would have probably picked Laura, but one interesting bit of information about her, she is up for re-election. So we did talk about that as well. So on November 2nd, we'll know whether or not she will not be able to serve in this position if she doesn't win her board seat. So then we would have a great candidate in Art. So I would probably have leaned towards Laura.
So I reviewed the videos. I guess I'm going this direction. I reviewed the videos, and I would probably lean towards Laura as well. But I'm open to discussion and to hear other people's insight on how they viewed the videos and where they were at. And then, of course, would be happy to support Art if her election is not successful, and that would make.
Could I add one more thing too? I totally forgot about one thing I did like about her too, and she points it out in the video, that she has lived in Garden City for a number of years, I think 20 years or so, but she is from this area. In fact, graduated from Shawnee Mission Schools, and so she still has family back here. So she does bring that kind of unique perspective to this KSB position, in that she lives on the western side, but she's from the eastern side. So we always kind of talk about that east-west divide in the state of Kansas, and she has both perspectives. So that was one thing too that led me to that decision.
Dr.
Can I ask,
sure. Ms. Embry?
Sorry, because I have only the video and a few pages, if there's any other members of this board that might have more interaction with her, even just hearing the extra hour of time from Sarah is useful context.
Well, I serve with both of them on the KSB Board of Directors. I don't know either of them well, but I've interacted with both of them for the 2 years that I've been on the board. And I respect both of them, and I really do think they are both great candidates. As Sarah pointed out, Laura Bors is from this area, actually from the Shawnee Mission West area, went to Pawnee and graduated from West, and so she does credit Shawnee Mission with helping her become the person that she is. So I would just say that I would feel very comfortable with either one of them becoming the president-elect. I think they're both excellent candidates. But I would probably lean towards Laura too, just because I think she would represent Shawnee Mission as well as the Garden City and everybody in between.
Mr. Stratton?
Sure, I'll go next. I would agree that based on the profile, based on the information that's been shared, both are excellent candidates. So there's no question that either of them do an excellent job. In my years of observing how leadership evolves and rotates throughout KSB, I've always struggled with this electing a president, elect, or however they do that. And this is a multi-year commitment. I do have the experience of working with Art Gutierrez out of Emporia. He and I went through the KSB Leaders for Tomorrow program back in 2017 and got to know him really well. Very impressed with his community leadership within the Emporia community, his involvement in the school district in Emporia, and then when he stepped onto the board at KSB, he stayed very involved in a variety of areas. I thought so highly of him that when somebody else reached out to me a couple years ago and said, another person said, would you support me if I run for the president of KSB? I put them off for a minute because I wanted to call Art first to make sure he wasn't running, because I didn't want to endorse this other person and then find out later, oh no, Art's, because I think that highly of Art. And he got back to me and said, no, it's not the right timing, but in another year or two, the timing will be right. And I was so pleased that he stepped forward. So I'm going to obviously lean towards Art for those reasons there. I guess the other piece, and I don't know enough about KSB's history to speak to this with real long knowledge, but it's a long-time organization. It's been around a long time. I don't know how much ethnic diversity we've had represent us at top leadership within that organization. And so that was the other piece, that when I got to know Art and when I saw him as a great leader, and I reached out proactively to him a couple years ago, said, I'd really love for you to do this. He said, not now, but in a couple of years. I just felt like now's our opportunity to do what we talk about a lot at this board, and that is take a diverse community and give opportunity to elevate leadership from a variety of ethnic backgrounds. And I think that's why Art would be a great candidate, and that's why I'd lean towards him.
Dr. Sinclair?
I, too, found both of their resumes, so to speak, to be both excellent candidates. I hope that whichever one, the person who does not get nominated reapplies next year. I think they both would be excellent leadership, provide excellent leadership at the state level. And the two, I think, each bring a different perspective to the table. I think you noted Art in particular would bring a person of color and bring that perspective of those experiences of his role in leadership and students in his district. I think that Laura brings to the table the perspective of growing up in this part of Kansas and teaching and working in another part of Kansas. And that divide is very real, and we need those connections, and we've had the benefit of having leadership in our own district here who can bridge those connections and find that common ground, and for the state to move forward at that level, that rural-urban divide is essentially very critical. So that's another strength, and I know Laura has had has had experience also advocating at the state level in front of legislative committees. So I think they both would be fabulous, and they both bring different assets to the table, and good luck to you, Reverend Guy.
Jamie, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. Well, what a wonderful position to be in, right? Where we have two incredible candidates. So please tell them both. Thank you very much for throwing their, name into the hat, so to speak. I think I kind of leaned more toward Laura because of the Garden City perspective that she's in currently, and then growing up in Shawnee Mission, all of the reasons that we've all stated. My husband grew up in Garden City. Our kids obviously go to Shawnee Mission, and they are very different. I have nieces and nephews who went K through 12 Garden City, and it's very different. And so I think to have someone, that is leading KSB that has that perspective and understands, the differences, that's important, because they are very different needs. So I would lean towards Laura because I think Laura does understand that diversity piece because of the amazing diversity in Garden City. And then she also, has the perspective of, of a more urban school district as well. So.
Thank you. Jessica?
Good luck, Laura. These are both fantastic. I fully support whatever vote you make. I don't have very strong feelings. I really liked hearing Brad's conversation about Art. I would probably lean toward him just a little bit because I think having, he proactively elevated some issues around diversity and inclusion and training for board members on that topic, which I really appreciate. So that's where I lean, but whatever you vote is perfect. This looks like a hard decision.
I think I have what I need, but if anyone has any other thoughts and you want to contact me.
If you think you have what you need, then I appreciate your service, Reverend Guy. Thank you, and thank you, everyone, for your comments. And again, we are in a fortunate position. So, We will move on to approval of the consent items. So unless I hear from someone who would like to move something from the consent agenda, I will seek a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move approval, Goodburn.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Is there a second?
Second, Hembry.
Thank you, Ms. Hembry. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Were there any opposed? Okay, hearing none, that passes 7-0. Our next action item is item 7.1, and this is the second read, the approval of the revised board policy IF, which was just revised predominantly to put in a timeline and to update the folks' titles in it so that the appropriate people are titled. I will seek a motion in a second, and then if I've left anything out, Ms. Goodburn can answer any questions or give us any information on that. So is there a motion to approve?
So move, Boardman.
Thank you,
I'll
Ms.
second
Boardman.
it.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Ms. Goodburn, do you have any other comments on this since the last time we reviewed it?
Not since the last time we reviewed it. I just want to remind everyone too that after our policy review committee, one of the members suggested that we add in some so there's some timeliness to these things. So we added in the 14 business days, and then on the one, and then below gives it to 30 business days. So it gives anybody that would have a request like this some specific guideposts of how long this process is going to take, which the administration took, like the decisions, or like that suggestion, took it and incorporated it. So, and those were incorporated for the first read as well. So this is nothing new, but I just wanted to point that out.
Were there any questions on this item? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Item passes 7-0. For item 7.2, this is the approval of our legislative platform. I will get a motion in a second, and then Dr. Little can provide us with an update or go over the items in the platform that we discussed at our retreat. Is there a motion to approve?
I move approval, Sinclair.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. Is there a second?
Second, Stratton.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton. And Stuart and David, we'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, Board. We are going to do this together. As you know, every year we go through a process of developing a legislative platform. We have divided our platform into several sections to make it easier to review. The first section, which has changed over the last 2 years because of COVID, is around health, safety, and social and emotional well-being. The second is around school finance. The third is around the support for rigorous academic standards for all students. And then the last is around the support for public schools. We've worked hard to ensure that our platform aligns with our strategic plan, and I'll mention some of those things. Under health, safety, and social and emotional well-being, obviously we continue to have things in the platform around COVID and allowing you as the Board of Education to maintain the authority to make decisions around the health and well-being of students and staff, working as you do in collaboration with our public health authorities. That continues to be a critical item, we think, in the work. We also, and there is discussion both in our community as well as nationally, around the work that districts do around social and emotional well-being. We have in our strategic plan that we are going to, one of our objectives, one of our 3 objectives, is for our students to develop the personal resilience and the interpersonal skills to become engaged, empathetic members of the local and global community. So there is a lot in here supporting that and supporting students' social and emotional well-being, including increased funding and support for mental health and behavioral health services, suicide prevention, support to implement the recommendations of the bullying and dyslexia task forces, and support to keep our schools safe from gun violence. In the school finance section, there are a number of things. Obviously, we're not yet at full funding for the school finance formula, so maintaining our trajectory to get to full funding is very important. Also, as you know, when When the formula was created, there were several sunsets that were put into it that we believe make it harder for us to plan for the future, so we're going to advocate for the removal of those. Also, in addition, something else we talk about every year, but it would make a huge difference. We provide significant support for our students with special needs, and yet are not reimbursed at what is in the legislation of 92%, so advocating for a full funding for that. Then we get to rigorous academic standards. Obviously, one of our objectives in the strategic plan is that every student will achieve academic success through a challenging, relevant, personalized learning plan. In here, we have a position on expanded funding for early learning programs and for changes to the state assessment that would allow it to do more than simply be meeting state and federal requirements, but also provide meaningful feedback for students and support their growth towards college and career readiness. And then finally, we have the area of support for public schools. As you know, while this board speaks for this community as elected representatives of the community, there are voices that we hear that argue for something other than what we think of as broad public schools. And we will always work hard to advocate for positions that support you as the elected representatives of this community in support for public schools. Do you want to add anything to that? No. All right. We are willing to stand for any questions or comments that you have then.
Okay. I'm looking to see, Ms. Borgman, do you have any questions?
Thank you. This is a great platform. I have a question for you. So once this is approved, how do you get this to the lawmakers? What's next, I guess? What do you do with this information, so to speak?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. We have historically had some pre-session event where we will have members of the legislative delegation will be invited. It's something I think that then we send out, push out to folks if they can't attend. And then when the legislative session begins, I make the rounds and say hello to everybody and drop it off and just make sure that functionally it serves as a guide as we get into testifying and having conversation about legislation proposed. It is the one document that we have that expresses the will that you will have put forth in this platform, and it shapes kind of how we have conversations with folks there in Topeka and begin to think about how specific bills and proposals fit within the context of what's expressed in the document. That's why it's 4.5 pages long as well.
Thank you.
Reverend Guy? I don't have any questions at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Stratton?
My question, I don't know, has an answer. And that is, as we try to put together a platform, and we already commented that it's multiple pages, we try to be succinct and we try to elevate our priorities as best we can when we advocate. And yet at the same time, we try to anticipate what the heck the 2022 legislative session is even going to look like. So I guess my question is, based on what you're hearing so far on the ground, does this platform address what's potentially coming or not?
Well, I would say yes, it does. And sometimes I've stood before you and said, this is too long, we need to have something functional. I don't think this is a moment where that's an issue. I think every single thing that I reported on and we brought back to you and that was debated and passed 6 months ago in the 2021 legislative session, every one of those issues are going to be back, loaded on top of that, a variety of additional and new issues. So I think the breadth here is very good. There are some things that were added that talk about a curriculum, that talk about authority for you all as a board and for the State Board of Education are absolutely critical. There are some undiscussed but some really significant, I think, property tax issues that are going to come up this next legislative session that are referenced in here in terms of the stability of the tax base for us locally. There are, everything that you've heard discussed about public education in the last 6 months is going to be in a bill come 77 days from tonight. So that I think the breadth here is functional right now.
Thank you. I stand corrected. There was an answer to that. Thank you.
I might ask Mr. Stratton's question in a slightly different way. So thank you for the organizational structure of this and the kind of the orienting paragraph under each section with some bulleted items that might come up. I think I appreciate the way it's organized. And I take away from the priorities to a certain degree the 4 sections, you know, so to what extent are we focusing on health and safety, or school finance, or public, you know, just solid public school policy in general, and most importantly, supporting rigorous academic learning for our students. So I feel like those, does that, how, functionally, is that how those 4 sections might align? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the work.
I don't have any questions. We discussed this I felt, extensively during our retreat, so I'm comfortable with it and appreciate your work, gentlemen. Ms. Goodburn?
I'm good.
Okay, Ms. Embry?
I'm good too, thank you.
Okay.
So President Owsley, I want to add one thing to Jamie's question. I think oftentimes in just superintendent meetings or forums that we have, we're often asked to testify or to speak to a category. So this is really great and organized, and it gives me direction on how to have those conversations. And if I were asked to testify, I would feel very confident that if it were on this form, that I would be pleased to do that.
Thank you. All right, well, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that passes 7-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 7.3 is the approval of the agreement with MAWD Pathology Group. I'll get a motion in a second, and then Dr. Hubbard can answer questions to this item.
So move, Borgman.
Thank you, Ms. Borgman. Is there a second?
Second, Goodburn.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Dr. Hubbard, can you just give us a few sentences on this one?
So this is the MOD contract, and actually I have Shelby Reback, Director of Health Services, and Dr. Ziegler here to discuss any specific questions that you have, but I think most of the questions that I've received to date are around the rapid testing versus the non-rapid and test to stay. So I guess at this point, it would probably be best if you just throw out your questions for us, and then we'd be glad to answer them for you.
Okay. I'm looking for people. Ms. Borgman?
Thank you. So my first question, I guess, would be, this is a drive-through testing site, correct? At one centralized location?
We're currently doing that here now. We are considering moving it for the winter to the Broadmoor facility, the back close to the gym by the PTA clothing closet. So we'll be moving here shortly.
Okay. So with this contract, how does this look with regards to masks, I guess?
So I think this really is not a huge impact on masking, because this, right now, we are testing symptomatic. Okay, so I think there's been some question around, would we use this for test to stay? And I'm going to let Chrissy talk a little bit more in depth about that, and then I'll come back in the end.
So in the board memo, one of the things that I shared is this is to continue what we stood up for testing in partnership with MOD last spring. If you'll recall, when we started with MOD, we did not have a formal agreement, but they were awarded funding through the Kansas testing strategy, early funds that were released at the state level, and I think they were flow through from the federal level. And they were sent out to start testing in communities, and they said, hey, Shawnee Mission, hey, can we work together? So here we are today with K-12 earmarked funding that it's the intent of school districts to utilize in our state to continue testing. So this formalizes that agreement, taking into consideration the $6 million that we were notified that we received to continue our testing plan. Our intention is to continue with PCR testing. Dr. Hubbard correctly stated that we are in what they consider a test-to-know program. So we are testing symptomatic cases. We are also utilizing the PCR tests for early return, right? So we've got maybe students or staff that have been in close contact with a positive case, and they can come and test for early return if they are clear
right? They're negative. So the PCR results are back within 24 in most cases, or 48 hours, sometimes even sooner than that. We'll continue with drive-through testing. Our concern to stray from that model right now is based on previous conversations that we've had as an administrative team and also in this room with the board about our staffing capacity and sustainability if we were to make a change. We are projecting with the $6 million in funding, and we have met several times with KDHE and JCDHE with us in those meetings for guidance, that we are allocating about 45,000 tests for this school year. And again, we don't know what the winter months bring, but we think based on our data so far that that should get us through this school year, we hope. And so that's some of the thinking that went into what we are proposing to continue with the current model. Masking helps us. If we go back to our Swiss cheese model, the fact that we are masking, we're seeing good results. The challenge we have with our case exposures is when both parties aren't wearing masks. Vaccines also help us as we watch what happens tomorrow with the FDA and then also next week with the CDC, and hopefully moving forward with vaccine opportunity for our younger learners. Those will be critical components for us to continue with what we have in keeping kids in school.
Thank you. Are there any other follow-up questions? Ms. Embry?
So I'm trying to understand I understand that there's some real staffing issues with the Test to Stay program, but I'm trying to understand the counterfactual sort of how many students are we having out regularly because they're in some sort of a close contact quarantine situation. I know our dashboard shares exclusions, and that would be an actual confirmed positive PCR test, but do we report on how many students are being, or I guess just help me understand, do we have any handle on how many students are missing days of school because they're not able to test and stay?
We do monitor that just through changes in reporting and with our county and the data sharing tools that we're utilizing this year. It's a little bit more difficult than it was last year to keep that data accurately posted on a week-to-week basis. But with our numbers this week, I believe our quarantines are right at about 100.
Okay. So those are mostly, I'm just trying to wrap my head around, mostly because we're doing masks, those would be students who are being exposed most likely over snack or lunch or some other masking mishap or poor mask adherence. It's not.
They would have to be unmasked for more than 15 minutes to meet that criteria. So classroom snack time really wouldn't factor in unless there are reports of poor masking.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any final questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Item passes 7-0. Thank you. A final item on our action agenda is the solution tree purchase for the PLC Institute. So item 7.4. I'll get a motion and a second, and then if we need to have any further discussion, we can.
Move approval, Sinclair.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. Is there a second?
Second, Hembry.
Thank you, Ms. Hembry. Everybody had their opportunity to ask questions, but do we need any further dialogue on this? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Item passes 7-0. Okay, and now we will move to comments from board members. Ms. Hembry?
I have just two brief. I wanted to note that we had parent-teacher conferences over the last couple of weeks. I know some of us still have young kids and had the pleasure of sitting through those, and I know they represent an extra lift for our teachers. So I just wanted to say thank you for all the educators that made those happen. I'm always so impressed when my children's teachers are not just able to show me their MAP scores, but tell me little tidbits like, oh, they're so good about being in groups with different kids, or they're not good at being in groups with different kids. So thank you for the conferences. I think they're always such a good opportunity for parents to see our educators at work, and I really appreciate them. Secondly, I was just going to note that a week from tomorrow is Election Day, and if I have been surprised by anything from being in elected office, it is just how rarely some people actually show up to vote, particularly people who are young with kids who get busy. So I hope everyone, I'm sure everyone here will be remembering to vote, but everyone at home will make it a priority next week.
I just want to give a shout out to Shawnee Mission Education Foundation too. It was so much fun to be included in the Scholarship Shawnee Mission event. It's just so fun to be back in the buildings and to see the excitement on the faces and the energy in that room when those scholarship letters were going out. So it was really fun. I just want to, gosh, $1 billion, B with a billion. It's amazing. So the work they're doing is just fantastic, and I just wanted to give them a shout out.
I just wanted a reminder for folks that the deadline to register your students for the AP test is this Friday. So if you are like me and accidentally forgot until today, you need to get in and do that. And a reminder to people, if they are not able to afford or pay for the AP test, there are folks in your building that can help with that. There's a free and reduced lunch cost lowering on that. So just as a reminder, if there are any parents at home who forgot about that, we got to get them registered. That's all. Dr. Sinclair?
I'd like to give a shout out to the team of folks who presented tonight and those who weren't here to think outside the box and to bring that proposal forward for the professional learning community. I think it reflects an incredible opportunity and kind of taking that risk to pull that together. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
I'm simply going to second the idea to go vote. I did mine today, and it's very convenient. We're fortunate in Johnson County to have as many opportunities to vote as we do in advance, and so hope everyone takes advantage of that.
And I just want to say a thank you to everyone who voted for our last bond issue, seeing the plans for Pawnee tonight, our third elementary school with this bond that's going to be rebuilt is so exciting. Having lived in that neighborhood for 27 years now, Pawnee has been the anchor of our neighborhood, and to know that for generations into the future, Pawnee, that school, Pawnee, will continue to be an anchor in the neighborhood, a gathering place for people. But everything new and up to current codes, and it's very exciting. I can't wait to see it happen, not just for Pawnee, but for our other schools. So thank you to the voters for supporting that.
I wanted to just ditto the Shawnee Mission Education Foundation and the Scholarship Shawnee Mission experience. I jokingly sent a text out that I felt like Oprah, you're going to college, you're going to college, you're going to college. It just, I mean, it's probably one of the highlights of my year. The gift of education is so impactful and so amazing, and just breaks cycles that we'll never understand and know for years and generations to come. So I just, the fact that the Shawnee Mission Education Foundation has this resource for all students is just absolutely amazing. And it just really felt like Christmas Day, handing out all of these scholarship letters. So really well done, Shawnee Mission Education Foundation. And this is also a huge week for fall sports. There's a lot of sub-state games that are being played this week, so good luck to all of our student athletes as you, I hope your season continues. So,
thank you, everyone. We will now be moving into executive session, so I will seek a motion from Dr. Sinclair.
I move we go into executive session to discuss personnel issues pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under COMA, and the board will reconvene. Well, no further business will be conducted, but we will.
30 minutes.
Okay.
So at let's say at 8:30. Unless, do we want like a 5-minute break? Okay, so 5-minute break, 8:35.
Okay.
Second, Goodburn.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.